Welcome everyone to Train Tuesday. I am your host, Jim Wiggin with Athearn Trains, and if you are catching us on the live feed right here, right now, well, thank you for joining me. If you are catching me later on YouTube and you like this type of model railroad content, feel free to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. That way you're notified every time a new video like this one is dropped into our channel. We're going to be talking Athearn Genesis GP7s as well as some ore cars in the Athearn line. And I've also got another special treat for you tonight about some locomotives that are hitting the shelves right now. And if you pre-ordered them, you've probably already gotten your phone call from your dealer. Let's start the evening by seeing who is joining us here live tonight on the feed. I see Terry, BNSF, and Brian, Jay Cure, Anthony, Joseph, Donnie, Eric, Abel, George, Jeremy, Michael, Ted, Bobby, and DG Model Works is in the house. So like I said, we're going to be talking Genesis GP7s. And for this month's release, we've got a pretty good range of stuff, plus some new developments with the GP7s that we'll talk about once we get into that segment. Let's do a couple of more shout outs and we'll get started with tonight's Train Tuesday. I see Sid, Ian, Charles, Thomas, Ramsey, Peter, Paul, Harold, and some others that are just starting to join us. I see Dave, and Dave's coming in from Philadelphia, PA. I saw someone earlier from South Africa. I see Jeremy from Racine, Wisconsin, George from Prescott, Arizona, and Abel from Houston. So glad that you could join us tonight for Train Tuesday. And again, if you're catching us later on YouTube, go ahead and like this video and feel free to add a comment. I try to watch all of the comments and answer as many as I can. But for now, let's talk GP7s. Let's talk Athearn Genesis GP7s. Now, in 1949, EMD introduced the GP7, and the basic design followed most diesel switchers with the addition of a short hood. Now, the hoods were also full height to better accommodate the diesel engine and the mechanical and electrical components that were inside. Now, many railroads later on in life, these were very versatile locomotives. Of course, the GP7 followed by the GP9. Very, very versatile locomotives. They ran for many years, but about the 1970s, a lot of railroads started to see some age in these locomotives. So many railroads chose to rebuild their GP7s and GP9s for continued service. Now, this was usually cheaper than buying an all-out brand new locomotive. And some railroads in the rebuilding process would add an R for the designation to indicate a rebuilt unit. We're going to talk about that specifically with one railroad here in just a moment. Now, the locomotive that you see on your screen right here, this really nicely patriotic looking locomotive, this is a Bangor and a Rustic number 1776. And this is the GP7s that we announced a couple of years ago. These are actually available right now at your hobby shop. So if you really like bicentennial locomotives or you're a Bangor and a Rustic fan of the 1970s, you can pick this up as well as the two stablemates in the standard blue and yellow paint scheme. Now, the item number for the locomotive that you see on your screen here is ATHG 82346. Again, that's ATHG 82346. Now, let's talk about the ones that are open for pre-orders right now, and you have until Friday, December 29th, to place your pre-orders with your Athearn dealer. So coming up first is the Chicago Northwestern. Now, we heard you guys asking for these, and so we had to do some mold work on these. There's some new tooling that allowed us to do these locomotives. Now, these are former Rock Island units. They were purchased by Chicago Northwestern secondhand from Precision National in 1981, serving the railroad in a variety of service for the next 15 plus years. Now, 4160 became inoperable in 1998, and in 2007, it was moved to the Illinois Railway Museum and repainted into the blue and white Rock Island paint scheme. So pretty much came full circle there. Now we're going to be offering three locomotives, three different road numbers, and two different eras for Chicago Northwestern. The first one that you see on your screen there at the very top is number 4140. This is a 1982 era Phase 3 body. It's going to include the 5-chime horn, firecracker antenna, and front snowplow. Coming up next is 4160 as it appeared in 1993, believe it or not. This is a Phase 2 body with 86-inch doors, 3-chime horn, spark arresters, and a front snowplow. Meanwhile, going back to 1982, we have 4193. This is a Phase 2 body with 86-inch doors, 5-chime horn, and a front snowplow. Now, some of the other features of the Chicago Northwestern Jeep 7s include new non-dynamic roof access hatches. We've never had this before. This is why we hadn't offered these in the past. A lot of you in recent surveys have asked for these locomotives. These are GP7Rs as designated by Chicago Northwestern. And this tooling has allowed us to make these locomotives as well as other ones that you'll probably see in a future release. These are going to have 1,700-gallon fuel tanks, partial skirting above the fuel tank. Remember, as these locomotives aged, that full skirting would sometimes be taken off for maintenance reasons. All-weather fireman's side window, flashing xenon strobe in the Tsunami 2 equipped versions only, and wheel bearings are per the prototype. So again, if you've been waiting for the Chicago Northwestern locomotives, specifically these GP7s, for as long as we think you have until Friday the 29th to place your pre-order and guarantee your arrival of these. Coming up next, and here's another one that a lot of folks have been asking for in the past, and these are the Amtrak locomotives. Rail fans pretty much call them pumpkins, and you can probably understand why. This is a 1978 era locomotive. In the late 1970s, Amtrak acquired a fleet of secondhand GP7s, which were painted in a bright orange color for use in maintenance away service. Now, these highly visible units were quickly and unofficially named pumpkins by the rail fan community. They were frequently spotted hauling Amtrak ballast cars, flat cars equipped with special racks to carry rail, or gondolas that were used to gather scrap steel and wooden ties that accumulated on the right-of-way. Now, aside from maintenance away use, these units were also used to couple Amtrak Express road railers to soon-to-arrive passenger trains. And if you're as old as me, you remember those road railers. And some other work was done with these too. Now, the Amtrak Pumpkins were involved in the rebuilding of the Doylestown branch for the Southeastern Pennsylvania Transit Authority and the Atlantic City line of New Jersey Transit. This bright paint scheme with unique details such as the cab-mounted strobes and the end-mounted emergency beacons will surely be an attention grabber on your layout. So there you have it. If you're modeling late 70s Northeast, you can probably figure out a justification to get one of these on your layout. We're actually offering two road numbers. Here you see 776. We're also offering unit number 777. Now, features that are specific just for these two Amtrak locomotives. These are going to come new with the non-dynamic roof access hatches, much like the CNW. These will also have a 1,700-gallon fuel tank, partial skirting above the fuel tank, front and rear flashing emergency beacon in DC mode only, flashing xenon strobes also in the Tsunami 2 version only, and wheel bearings per the prototype. So again, I know a lot of you guys were asking for these. Now here's your chance. Now, just before the show, I saw a couple of guys are really excited about some Cascade Green in this run, and Burlington Northern Railroad March of 1970, when the ICC gave the okay for the Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy, Great Northern, Northern Pacific, and Spokane, Portland, and Seattle's railroads to formally merge and form one company. Now, one result of the merger was the creation of a large group of GP7s on the roster with different features. The two former Northern Pacific GP7s offered in this Genesis release came with rooftop air tanks to equip them with larger fuel tanks to extend their operating range. We're going to offer two different road numbers in this run. pictured here is 1629. We're also going to have road number 1636. Now, these will have features specific for the former Northern Pacific, now Burlington Northern units, including the roof-mounted torpedo tube air tanks, winterization hatch, cab-mounted beacon. This will function if you get the Tsunami 2 version, firecracker antenna, and of course a roof-mounted steam era bell, which was so pretty much a Northern Pacific call-out. And we didn't do just class ones in this run. We did something a little bit different this time, and this one really excited a lot of you. Precision National. This is a 1970s era paint scheme. In the early 1970s, Precision National was one of the first companies that remanufactured diesel locomotives and then leased them out to railroads that needed them to bolster their fleets when they were short on power. Their shops were located in Mount Vernon, Illinois, which later on became the home for National Railway Equipment, a company that became a major supplier of leased and rebuilt diesel locomotives. PNC developed a uniform green and yellow paint scheme for their lease fleet that could be seen all around the country. So again, if you're doing 1970s and you really like GP7s, but your railroad maybe didn't have those at this time, or you're not seeing your road selected for this month, you can justify it by getting one of these lease units. We're offering 2 different road numbers, and they have specific call outs for each locomotive. We'll start with the 1508 there at the top. This one's going to have a front nose oscillating signal light, which will function with the Tsunami 2, spark arresters, and non-dynamic brake hatch. 4207, slightly different, footboard pilots, dynamic brakes, and tall MU stands. Now on top of that, these 2 units will also feature different wheel bearing styles per their prototype. These still have their full skirts. They have a 1,200-gallon fuel tank, sunshades, and cut levers. Coming up next, we're going to go to another iconic road to the northeast, and that's the Eerie Lacana. Now, these are really interesting locomotives. In 1960, the Delaware Lackawanna and Western Railroad merged with the Erie Railroad to form the Eerie Lacana. The Erie had owned a sizable number of EMD GP7s, which were all less than 10 years old at the time of the merger and still giving good service. Rather than spend precious money to repaint these units immediately, the Eerie Lacana decided to retain the Erie paint scheme, but omitted the wings on the ends of the units and added their own logos. And the units continued in this guise until about the mid to late 60s, when some and most were repainted in the gray and maroon Eerie Lacana paint scheme. Now, there's a few things I do want to mention here. We're going to talk about it briefly, but I want to show you these road numbers first, and then we're going to talk about some updates on these models. First, we have 1207 and 1214. These were dynamic brake equipped. And in the original art, we've got 1221 without dynamic brakes. Now, when we published this picture, the Eerie Lacana Historical Society contacted Athearn, and they said 1221 did indeed have dynamic brakes. So as a result, working with the Eerie Lacana Historical Society, we've chosen road number 1225. Now that artwork will be updated shortly, and there's some other updates that I want to let you guys know about so that you know that your finished model will be as accurate as possible. Here's a couple of things to keep in mind when you look at the artwork until we get this artwork updated and put out there for you to see. The front Eerie Lacana logo on the nose will be slender, more based on the prototype. You see the Eerie Lacana had 2 different styles of font for their nose logo versus the side logo. Currently, if you look at our artwork, they both look the same, and that's incorrect. There's a smaller, thinner version on the front of the nose and a thicker version on the long hood. The side logo, where you see the Eerie Lacana and their logo, that's actually too far down. According to Eerie Lacana records, we need to move that up a little bit, and so we've already got that in the process of getting corrected as we speak. The side Eerie Lacana, it's spelled out on the long hood. It will have prototypical spacing on the prototype. If you look at our artwork, it's a little bit what they call kerning. It's kind of scrunched together. Eerie Lacana, when they applied this lettering on the side of the long hood, it was spaced so that it would fit perfectly on the doors. And if you take a quick look and do a search on an Eerie Lacana locomotive, you'll see what I mean by the letter spacing. That's going to be updated to match the prototype. The yellow nose art will feature more prototypical rounded flow based on the prototype. If you look real carefully, at the Eerie Lacana paint scheme when it was painted like this, the yellow doesn't really have any straight 90-degree bends to it. It's a very flowing paint scheme, very elegant paint scheme actually. And again, we found that and we're going to be updating that to match the prototype. 1225 will have the first stanchions painted yellow, again, per the prototype. We're also going to be correcting the MU stands. Eerie Lacana Historical Society kind of called that out and said, you know, those MU stands are not quite right. These were used in passenger service. So we are going to be addressing that. And the units will, of course, have the correct spark arresters. So the beauty of us putting this artwork out there was our experts at the Eerie Lacana Historical Society contacted us, and this will assure you that when you order these locomotives, when you receive them in about 18 months from now, they will be correct because we've been working with the Eerie Lacana Historical Society, and we want to take this opportunity to thank them for contacting us and helping us out to make a better model for you. Now, some of the other features of these locomotives, they're relettered Erie units. They're post 1960. Remember, these were only about 10 years old when that merger occurred. We're going to be having dynamic or non-dynamic locomotives depending on the road number. 2 single chime horns, canvas style sunshades are still in use at this point, and they will operate on long hood forward operation. Again, these were originally in passenger service. Now, the one that's got people the most excited is the undecorated. Now, honestly, I've said in the past that undecorated models don't sell, but we are starting to see more folks ask for undecorated. Now, if there is a demand for undecorated, we certainly want to help that demand and fill that out with locomotives that you guys want. A lot of guys were asking for more of your everyday Jeep series locomotives and undecorated, and certainly the GP7 fits that bill. GP7s could still be seen today at any various industry or grain elevator or short line earning its keep. This is going to give you the opportunity to paint your own locomotive. Now, we're going to be offering not just these in undecorated, we're offering them in different phases. Here we've got a GP7 and undeck dynamic brake equipped phase 3. We've also got a non-dynamic in phase 2 and an dynamic undecorated in phase 2. Now, in addition to these being undecorated, we're going to offer some optional parts. So that way you can really build the locomotive of your choice. So those optional parts include a dual Leslie A200 or single S3L horn, winterization hatch, 1200 or 1600 gallon fuel tanks, speed recorder, footboards, dual MU receptacles, nail, firecracker, and Sinclair ice skate antennas. So you've got some parts that are going to come with these, and you can successfully pretty much build and paint the locomotive of your choice. So pretty exciting for you guys that are still doing some custom painting. It is going to be, I know I'm going to get one because I still enjoy firing up the airbrush now and then. Now let's talk about some of the features in general that this locomotive will have. Remember, these are Athearn Genesis, so they're going to have coupler cut levers, train line and MU hoses, drop steps unless otherwise noted, MU stands, the nub style walkway tread, windshield wipers, lift rings, wire grab irons, windshield wipers, sander lines, and for the CNW and the Amtrak locomotives, new roof access hatches on non-dynamic units per the prototype. Now, bell placement and type are per prototype. Detailed fuel tank with fuel fillers, fuel gauges, breather pipes, and retention tanks, and Blomberg B trucks with appropriate bearing caps. MSRP on these guys is $219.99 without sound, $319.99 with Tsunami 2. Now again, that's MSRP, so contact your dealer for your price. All right, before going to the next item, I'll go ahead and open the floor for some questions for a little bit, and then we're going to move on to some ore cars. I'm going to go back in a little bit. A lot of people were really happy with the Undex. One man that's got a really good channel, Late Night Model Railroad. I might be interested in a couple Undex. I'm creating my own freelance railroad right now. If only GP39s came on deck, that would be exciting. You never know. You never know what we're going to do in 2024. Let's see. Scott, I think he's probably commenting on my comment about undeck units. I get it. I'm one of those guys at Undex. If you were to go into my workshop right now, you would see probably 25 undecorated GP7s and GP9s that I've purchased over the years. I still like to pick up an airbrush and still like to do it. However, I'm kind of the minority. It's still out there. We're going to test the waters with this, and we're going to see how it does. If people like myself and you pony up and buy the undecked locomotives and we're doing really well with them, we're definitely going to keep doing them. The reason why we have not done the undeck in the past is because we weren't frankly seeing the sales. A lot of people were just happy with waiting until their railroad was up and it was produced and they could put it on their layout. Some of us still enjoy the craftsman side of it and like to paint our own stuff. There's something very rewarding about painting our own equipment. And so we're going to see what happens. So, Scott, get out there, pre-order these. I'll pre-order mine, and let's see if we can keep making some undecks for you guys. Let's see. One more question, and then I'm going to move on to the next one. Kind of an off-topic question, but I'm going to answer it anyways from Suncheck's rail fanning. Would you guys ever start doing O scale again? Two rail O scale gets absolutely no love these days, and it's sad. I actually have a really close friend of mine that does two rail O, and it's a really intriguing scale, especially if you've got the space to do even a small switching layout. Unfortunately, there's enough manufacturers out there that can, help the demand. And Athearn right now is pretty much committed on mainly HO followed by N scale. And I don't see us going to two rail O again. I mean, that major shift happened right after World War II when HO really kind of took a hold and took that lead away from two rail O. And we haven't seen HO and lately N scale slowing down at all. So unfortunately, no, I don't see us doing that in the near future. All right, let's move on to some more cars. These are the Athearn PCNF 26-foot tight bottom ore cars, and they're going to feature updated tooling. Now, the one that you see on your screen does not have the updated tooling. I'm just using it as an example. These were from the last run. These are no longer in our distribution center. However, you might find them at your favorite hobby shop or online retailer. This is a car lettered for Conrail, and the item number for this is ATH 97951. Again, it's item number ATH 97951. So if you really like that car, you can look that up and see if your favorite hobby shop still has one of these. Now let's talk about what we're offering this month with a pre-order date of the 29th, which is a Friday. So for each one of these roads that we're offering, we're going to offer them in one of two different versions. There's the low side and there's the high side. We're also going to offer one road number, just a single car by itself, as well as two 4-packs. The first car that you see here, it's a 1960s era high side Southern Pacific. This is car number 34007. We're also going to offer two four packs of this car, and all of the numbers are different. There are no duplicates, so you can get both the four car sets as well as the individual and not have to worry about renumbering them. They're all individually numbered, ready to go. The next one is a 1970s low side Union Pacific. This is car number 27527. Same thing. We're going to offer that single that you see here as well as the two four packs. Okay, we've got some love for our Canadian brothers up north. We've got Canadian Pacific. This is 1960s era, and these are low side. This is CP Rail 375507. On top of this single car, we'll offer two four packs. Again, none of those road numbers are duplicates. They're all different. Followed by the Pennsylvania, the standard railroad of the world, 1960s era low side. This is car number 15007. Likewise, two four packs that you can add to make your ore train. We were up north. Let's go down south of me. And NDM 1990s era low side are going to be offered. This is car number 130977. Likewise, there'll be two four packs that you can add to your ore train. And Cypress Sierra Corporation 2010. This is a low side car. Reporting marks on this is CLMX, and this is car number 10034. We're offering two four packs as well. Now this next one, I'm going to warn you, it's got a trigger warning. It is a legendary liveries. This is Rio Grand 1980s era high side. No, these never existed. UP, yes. Rio Grand, no. But plausible. So we went ahead and put those in here. These are, again, a alternate timeline 1980s era, but they are legendary liveries. They are high side. This is car number 7707. Likewise, we will offer two four packs of the legendary liveries Rio Grande for your benefit. And then finally, but certainly not least, based on a lot of demand, are the data only high sides. This single brown car just has data, so you can add your road name, your reporting marks, your road numbers to your heart's content. And to go along with that, we're also going to offer two four packs, one brown, one black. So there you go. If there's some road that you model that you don't see here tonight, you can go ahead and get the data only versions and letter those up to your specific railroad. Now let's talk a little bit about the details. When we say updated tooling, what does that mean? So basically what that means is the tooling has been refined. So the injection molding is going to look better. You're going to have much better detail on the rivets, the smoother lines between ribs and molded on detail will be that much sharper, much more refined. So these are almost new cars. They're also going to feature removable ore loads, McHenry operating scale knuckle couplers, precision machined metal wheels with RP25 contours, and of course they're weighted for their optimum performance. And you can probably guess these have zero issues navigating a minimum radius of 18 inches. Now the price on these, again, MSRP, contact your dealer for your price. They're $31.99 individually, and if you go for the four pack, they are $109.99. But again, that's MSRP, so please contact your dealer for your price. All right, one last thing, and then I'll take some questions. These guys are finally hitting the stores. They are on dealer shelves. In fact, we've already got a review going up on these little switchers. So the SW1500s that we announced just over 2 years ago are here now. Remember, these have been upgraded, and the first time ever they have sound. So they have Tsunami 2 sound. The drive mechanism on these, I'm really impressed with. You can see I've got the Conrail one behind me on the layout. The slow speed of these guys is just amazing. And believe it or not, these things can actually pull quite a few freight cars. So if you're in the market for a new switcher, these are indeed at your favorite local retailer or your favorite online retailer. And here's just a few from that release. Here's the Western Pacific in a really sharp paint scheme. You can see the item number there just above me. Wisconsin Central. We did 3 road numbers for this railroad. This one's proved to be extremely popular. Now, these are former SP locomotives, so if you notice, the number boards and the lights are a little bit different than, say, the Western Pacific version. Here's Cotton Belt. Now, if you do get the Tsunami 2 version, the lighting effects will work. The Mars light does function. The one that we've got right behind me here is the Conrail one. With these, in fact, we've got 3 different road numbers for this run. And if you're a fan of the Cascade Green, we've got 3 different road numbers for Burlington Northern. And yes, if you go for the Tsunami 2 version, the strata light there on the top does actually function. It's a really great locomotive. And believe it or not, these are the old ready to roll. Now we've kind of turned that into Athearn. These do have an interior. So you can add your crew members in here very easily. We've kind of left it open for you to further detail. They're not Genesis detail quality, they're Athearn, but you can add those details if you wish. Although a lot of guys are commenting they really like the way they're detailed already. They do have grab irons, MU hoses, the detailed interior. And believe it or not, for the first time ever, these actually have ground lights on them. That's something that you usually see in a Genesis model. So a lot of neat features have been packed into these locomotives. They updated the motor. The drivetrain is very similar to a Genesis drivetrain. And so far, I've been really impressed with them. Keep your eyes out for some reviews in the next week or so. And talk to your hobby dealer. If you're in the market for a switcher, then these will probably fit the bill. All right, with that, I got time for a few questions. So let's see what's going on out there in your workshops, what kind of questions you have for Athearn tonight. Jay Cure has a question. Any word on the SW1000 units arrival? Asking for a friend. Well, it looks like they might actually get here before the end of the year. It may be late December. So if you go to our website, and yes, I know the website's kind of a mess right now. We are working on that. I know you guys probably hear me say that a lot, but there's a lot of things our developers are trying to fix right now. But if you go to our website, you'll see that the images have been replaced, have replaced the line art. So that means they're getting close. That means we photographed production samples and they've been added to the web. So we're looking at this point, probably about 4 weeks away. So we might get them in before the end of the year. Jason's reminiscing here about the ore cars. Jim, I can see these ore cars loaded with taconite and sent to boats like the Fitzgerald and the Anderson. Yes. Yep. The Edmund Fitzgerald. Seems like that was yesterday, but. Ron Stanek wants to know, these are awesome. Do they have keep alives on them? They don't. However, there is a review out there, and I was really impressed by this, where they were running, I believe, on number 7 turnouts on an HO layout, and the frogs were not powered. Now, I can tell you as an N scaler, powered frogs is a huge deal. In fact, it has to be done. And these little models actually rolled right across. In fact, the layout behind me, I've wired the frogs up to be powered, but I haven't gotten around to it yet. And I've had 0 issues with it stalling on there. So you can easily apply your own keep alive, but no, from the factory, they do not include that. Rogan wants to know those SW1500s are closing in on Genesis pricing, being ready to roll as Conrail in it at least. Prime for Grime Conrail, former Reading or PC would have been cool. Well, that's some good thoughts. We can probably do that in a future run. Now, we haven't run the SW1500s for a while because tooling updates needed to be made. So it's probably been about almost 10 years since we had an SW1500 in this line. But these have substantial updates on them. If you were to compare them to a former ready to roll SW1500, you could probably justify that price. Now, keep in mind too, those prices that I keep showing you, those are MSRP, so you need to talk to your dealer. Sean's Trains did a really good review on these models, and he actually quotes what he paid through his dealer, and it's not the MSRP price that you're seeing. St. Crow, you have said this more than twice. Yes, I am watching. Too bad the undecorated GP7s didn't come with Alco trucks. Then one could make the GP7s from the 1985 movie Runaway Train. I think St. Crow has a thing for that movie. I think he really wants to replicate that. We probably could have. It would have required additional tooling, however, and that would require more time. We really wanted to get the access hatches done first because that was a no-brainer. We can do a lot of different roads with that upgrade, and you're going to see more of these GP7s in the future. As far as doing the other trucks, don't think that I'm saying no. There's stuff going on in the background. A lot of requests for N-scale stuff. So N-scale guys, briefly, we have got a lot on our plate right now. When I say we, I mean product development. Product development has a lot on their plate right now. And so there's not any new projects that I know of, but keep in mind, we had 3 new N-scale releases last year, all new tooling. Those were NSC cars, the gondolas, the 13K tank cars. And by the way, those were modern. I had one guy hit me up on social media saying that we never do modern and N scale, and that's not true. We do. We are actually seeing a lot more N scale guys demanding modern. So we're watching that. It's just right now we've got a backlog of projects, and hopefully once we get caught up, we can start looking at some other N scale projects. Don't forget too, we've got the CA11s coming in Athearn Genesis N scale, and that's something that we announced, I think, at the national show. So that's a big deal too. Mike wants to know, are the ready to roll non-sound models, do they include installed speakers? Thanks. They don't, not in this run. That is a relatively new thing that we did when we switched from ready to roll to Athearn. So they do not come with the speakers installed if you just get the DCC ready versions. You'll notice on our packaging and you'll notice on our advertising that if they do include speakers, we'll say DCC and sound ready, speakers factory equipped. We try to make that known. This kind of fell just before we started doing that. So no, unfortunately, these do not come with the speakers. Frank, Jim, any idea on when the Genesis GP15-1 locomotives would be shipping? ETA was July. I'm right there with you because I have the Rock Island Rail on pre-order. I'm super stoked about this locomotive. We did a lot of updates on this locomotive, including a lot of new lighting features that were not available on previous runs. I'm looking at lit number boards to just one of those new features. So originally we wanted to have those out by July. Like a lot of locomotives and a lot of projects in our fleet right now, there's that backlog. So we're trying to work through that backlog. The current ETA for you and I for our GP15s, we're looking at about June, maybe July of 2024. Trust me, I'm just as impatient as you are. But we're going to try to get those done, and we're going to try for that date. So I'm going to put this up here. It's not who I think it is. It's actually somebody else, or maybe it's an alias. I don't know. Will Athearn ever make S-scale locomotives and rolling stock in the future? Maybe in 2024. There isn't much new N-scale stuff nowadays that isn't Lionel. There's a few manufacturers out there I can think of that are doing S scale, non-American Flyer, non-Lionel. Um, we've frankly got too much on our plate right now. We've got a lot of HO scale projects. We should be seeing the AC 4400s come here before the end of the year. I can't wait to see those, but we're still trying to get everything worked out for the Surfliners, the California cars. There's a lot of new projects in front of it. So right now we're going to be concentrating on those HO and N scale releases. Sid, you should have yours by now. You need to talk to your dealer. If you pre-ordered your Ohio Central, you should have it now because the DC is completely out. They've all gone to dealers and stuff. So contact your dealer post haste. I know you've been wanting that for a long time, so I don't want to see you miss out. One good question from Donnell. Hey Jim, will you produce any newly tooled cars and or locomotives in the standard Athearn line? Or is everything going to be Genesis and retooled oldies? Genuine question, not a complaint. No, I totally understand your question and I thank you for asking it. Yeah, we're going to do new stuff for Athearn as well. You're going to see stuff in 2024. Not everything is Genesis, and honestly, not everybody is a Genesis modeler. There are some folks that are perfectly happy with operating Athearn line locomotives and freight cars. And honestly, most of the railroad layouts that I operate on, that's what they're using. The Genesis cars, don't get me wrong, they're beautiful, they're accurate, but sometimes these don't do well with all those details. Sometimes I'm guilty of not being as delicate as I should be. And let's face it, if we're doing an operating session, MU hoses, things like that, they can easily break off when you're trying to, switch cars and things. So yes, we're always going to be doing new things for Athearn as well as the other lines. So good question. No offense taken. One or two more questions, and then I am going to let you guys get back to it. I'm seeing both Terry and Sid saying that their dealers have not received their tunnel motors yet. So please contact your dealer, give them a call, and have them talk to their sales rep because I just happened to look at one of the Ohio Central tunnel motors today, and it said that we were completely out of them within our distribution center. So check with your dealer and have your dealer talk to your sales rep. All right, one more question, and then I'm going to get you guys back to whatever it is you're working on the workbench or in the workshop. Paul reminded me, still no survey. No, we're still working on that. It's not just me that does those surveys, but it's a committee thing. And we just want to make sure that we're all got our heads together and we're sending you the right kind of questions. All right, let's see what's a good question to end the night. And remember, if you have requests for specific locomotives or freight cars in your favorite railroad line, just use our Athearn product suggestion email. It's Athearn-product suggestion at athearn.com. Send that in there and we'll go over there. I'm going to end with Conductor 1995. It's a good question. What is the hardest part about creating new tooling for your products? In a word, research. Research, research, research. Before any mold is cut, before any die is cast, hours upon hours upon hours of research is conducted. When we did the Dash 9s and just recently the AC 4400s, there was probably about 3 years worth of research done before any molds were cut. And especially if it's a Genesis model. So there's a lot of demanding modelers out there. And when you buy a Genesis model, you are prepared to have a model that is prototypically accurate. And sometimes that requires a lot of research. So there you have it. Michael, I saw your comment on Facebook earlier today. Those snowplows should be here before the end of the year. So keep an eye out for that. I'm hoping you probably see them a week before Christmas or so. So that's all I've got for you. Thank you for joining me live tonight on the live feed. And don't forget, check me out next Tuesday, 7 o'clock Central, for another Train Tuesday. And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for the YouTube channel. We're going to be doing some more videos going into 2024, and you also want to be reminded whenever we drop the new announcements videos. Until next time, everyone, be happy, be healthy, do some good modeling, and above all, high greens. Take care.